you doing? I'm Jeff Crespi, concert music photographer, lover of all things music related, and people. Model building has been something that I've been doing since I'm a little kid. Puzzles, anything that I could put my hands on, comes in a kit. String arts. I also was an athlete growing up, played ball every day of my life after school, every sport you could think of. I was also very into exercise. I worked out every day of my life. I was in the gym, I was outside, I was doing everything you could imagine. From the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed, I was an active kid. Growing up, the only two places I ever was Puerto Rico and Florida, but I was very little and really I don't remember much of it. But then it was all the hotels upstate. As a kid growing up, the only thing you could actually do upstate was play in an arcade or ice skate. That was kind of the two main things to do. So pinball became my thing. I have my own authentic 1964 Gottlieb Sweethearts table. I have a few pinball machines that I've actually built that are all functional. I have a micro digital pinball machine that's amazing. I have over 100 tables to choose from, and I still play these things on a weekly basis. The model building is something that's become my thing now. Since the pandemic is when I kind of started getting back into them with all that downtime, and I would just order these paper projects and wood projects, and I would just sit there for hours and hours and hours just building shit. I mean, I don't know, there's just something about the feeling of sitting down when everybody's asleep and just doing my thing. A lot of the book nooks that I do, the balsa wood projects, most of those, if I wanted to, could be done in a day or two, but I try to spread them out over a week or two just to kind of obviously not go through them so quick. The book nooks that I do are small, they go on a bookshelf, but they're so detailed and tedious, and that's what I love about them. So it's kind of cool. Like, it kind of takes time, and yeah, I just love doing that stuff. Almost every shop class back then, we made a light, a strobe light that flickered with the vibration of music. So we had to build these, and I remember after we built one in school, I wanted to build one at home. So I went downstairs to the laundry room, and I actually found a stereo system that I guess was my father's from years ago, and I remember taking it upstairs and setting it all up in the living room. There was a company back then where you built your own stereo systems with the tubes and everything, and these two big ass speakers that just had one giant speaker in them. They looked like end tables, that's how big they were. But that was the start of stereo equipment for me, and since then trust me, I was off to the races, man. My very first stereo system that I ever bought myself, I went to the Wiz in Brooklyn. I was driving my mother's Hornet hatchback. We drove all the way to the Wiz to buy the stereo system. It was a Fisher rack system, like 7 components, and I'll never forget. We were short like a few dollars, and they wouldn't let me take it. I had to leave my wife hostage at the store and drive all the way home to get more money from my mother to come back to pay for the rest of the stereo system. And that was the first stereo system I ever bought. And again, every stereo system I bought, I would hook a DJ mixer into it and hook more shit into it, and everything was ended up being like 12 pieces. Long story short, when I got into recovery, I used to DJ all the AA anniversary dances in Brooklyn in church basements. I always had a stereo system blasting in the background, no matter where I was, no matter what room I was in. Cassette decks, double cassette decks, 8-track players, everything. So I always loved all the retro style. I love the buttons, I love the switches, I love the lights. I just love all the components. I hate the micro shit today. I hate that everything became smaller and all in one components. I know it's more convenient. I get it. But I do like the visual of all the old style components. The fact that a lot of these things are all related to my being clean and sober in my recovery. So the shows especially became technically my therapy. Like, a lot of people always ask me, do I still go to meetings? And my answer is no. And they're like, why not? I said, because the shows are my meetings. What you get at a meeting is exactly what I get at a show. And that's something that I learned along my journey from being in the meetings every day of my life for probably 15 years. And then once the show started, I realized it was having a much longer lasting effect on me than the meetings were. When I started going back to shows, I already had, I think, about 11 or 12 years in recovery. So the foundation was already built, where I felt comfortable enough to be in these places in that state. I also could tell you that when I first started going to shows at the bigger venues, I've told everybody my story so that they knew where I was coming from to avoid, a mistake or anything like that. So I made sure that everybody knew what I was about. And that was also because when I first started going to a lot of the VFW shows, and these were a lot of like high school kids, I was actually sponsoring some of these kids. Some of these kids were looking up to me as not just a photographer, but as a human being who was already in that process of recovery. I mean, I was doing all of those things back then. I was taking meetings into halfway houses. I was speaking on speaking commitments all over the state of New Jersey. I was even part of a Scared Straight program with the Youth Detention Center in Freehold years ago, where they used to send me out to schools and on speaking commitments with middle age and high school age students. I love the fact that I could go to a show and have different styles of music, different styles of people, and I thought that interaction just had a longer lasting effect on me when I left. I'm a big fan of documentation. I'm a big fan of being able to look back years later at stuff. I love the physical photos. I love to go through bins. I love to go through photo albums. I love to go through scrapbooks. So that was always a piece of the puzzle. Documenting my journey was all it was about. It was never about photography. I was just trying to document mine and my son's journey so we had something to look back on. That journey just kept evolving into something bigger. I came across something on Facebook. It was a publication that basically I just emailed and I just said, hey, I go to all these shows with my son. I'm not really sure what I want to do, but maybe I could write reviews for you, or something to that effect. And this woman wrote me back and she said, I love what you do with your son. How would I put you down as a staff photographer? I'm like, okay. I don't even know what that meant at that time. It turned out to be one of the biggest publications in the country at the time, which I never heard of, called AMP Magazine. So right from day one, I was shooting for AMP Magazine. I came home and told my wife I just bought a $600 camera. She wanted to kill me. She said, are you getting paid? I go, no. She says, oh. So who the hell knows? I said, I'm just going to have fun and see what happens. I always like to have something that I could pull out of a closet and look through, whether it be a bin of old photos or a binder of set lists, pics. I mean, the amount of stuff that I have over these 20 years, yeah, I was just recently going through a lot of it. You know, my old original press passes, the set list that I've collected over the years, how many autographs I have on set list, ticket stubs, posters, pics, drumsticks, a 20-year collection of memorabilia that I could always look back at, and I love that. My wife and I are not really tattoo people, but I personally always love looking at tattoos, but I never ever had a thought of getting a tattoo until my daughter decided to become a tattoo artist. And I'll never forget, my daughter actually said to my wife, why don't I tattoo you? And I never in a million years would imagine my wife getting a tattoo. And she was like, okay. We both got our first tattoos in our 60s. I wanted to get some representation of who I am and what I do. So my daughter came up with the idea of Polaroid pictures of all the venues that I worked at or worked for. The Stone Pony, the Wonder Bar, Starland Ballroom, Asbury Lanes, House of Independence, all tattooed on my arms. Yeah, so it's a nice representation of the last, 20 years of my life. When I first started, it was really going to shows with my son. A lot of the bands that we were following were at the time, mostly high school bands. But, over the years, I got to watch a lot of bands who were just starting out progress to multiple levels in the music industry, but also watched a lot of these younger musicians evolve into bigger musicians playing with newer or other projects that have gone to, very high levels of musicianship. So that's a cool piece of the puzzle. And then fast forward 10 years later, 15 years later, now 20 years later, a lot of these younger musicians are in bands now that I'm photographing on major stages. Every so often somebody will come up to me and say, Jeff, I don't know if you remember this, but I used to be part of the, School of Rock, and you used to take pictures when I was like 14 years old. Now you're taking pictures of me when I'm 25 and 30 years old. I've had people come off the stage and say, I don't know if you remember, Jeff, but you used to photograph my dad. He used to play in a band that used to play Starland Ballroom all the time. So now I'm also photographing second generations of people. To me, that's like the ultimate compliment. Like, there's no mistaking, what you do when you have people that come up to you constantly thanking you, constantly telling you how much they appreciate what you've done over the years, constantly having conversations about what it means to have somebody like me out there doing what I do. It isn't the reason why I do it, but it is the reason why I continue to do what I do. Those conversations mean more to me than anything else in the world. The interaction, the human interaction to me is beyond irreplaceable. You cannot sit there and be separated from human beings for too long without feeling lonely, without feeling disconnected. And I don't want to ever feel that way. I know there's some people that prefer that way. That's fine. I'm not talking about that. That's not how I want to be. So I always would rather be with people than without people.
Cool. I think that's great, man.
Cool.